I'm a little bit behind, I know, and I apologize, but I need a few extra days because I was getting some other things straightened out. But today's the day, my friends. Today we are going to start diving into Season 2 of Castlevania, starting with Episode 1, War Council. And it's an episode that is kind of just decent, unfortunately. And it's because it's very slow, it's very heavy on its exposition, and while a lot happens, also a lot doesn't happen at the same time. It's mainly a whole lot of setup while also acting as a sort of epilogue to the previous season. Which I get. I know that season starters aren't always the best episodes, but I expected this one to be just a little less slow than it actually is. But let's talk about it. What's up? What's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Animation Station for anything and everything animation. I'm sorry, I can't talk today. Including ancient families that fight against creatures of the night, and welcome back to our Castlevania-Thon. Yep, we are continuing this, and you're getting 3 episode reviews today because I ended up taking a few days off. So, without further ado or delay, let's dive into the Season 2 premiere episode, War Council. The synopsis reads, Dracula's generals gather to prosecute the war against humanity. There is discourse where Dracula's human allies, Hector and Isaac, are given command of the armies of the night. I have a lot to say about Hector, and I'm very excited that he's in this show, and I will explain why when we get to his part. So, the plot starts for the episode in Lupu of 1475. It starts with a flashback. In her cottage, Lisa Tepish is giving medicine to Miss Trevor and advises her on the best ways to use it. They are interrupted when the Bishop of Targovishta and his priests storm in, decrying her medical herbs and instruments as witchcraft. The bishop orders her arrested, ignoring her protests as she's dragged from the house, and ordering his priests to burn the building down. In other words, giving extra confirmation of what actually happened, leading her up to the stake. Because don't forget, in the first episode of the season, we just saw the part where Dracula and Lisa met, and then it immediately flashed forward to her burning at the stake. This one gives more context. Now we go to present time at Dracula's castle in 1476. Count Vlad sits in a chair in his study, staring sadly into the fire, doubtless thinking of the flames that consumed his wife and their home and destroyed his one chance at happiness. Emerging from the main hall, Vlad addresses the vampires of his inner court who lead his army, telling them their war against humanity is just, and their strategy of using the night hordes shall continue. Then he stuns the generals by ordering Hector and Isaac, his 2 Devil Forge masters, the only humans in the court, to draw up the plans for their next attack. The assembled vampires are shocked and outraged, but only one, Godbrand, is brave or foolish enough to ask why. You're gonna learn quickly that Godbrand's a bit of a big-mouthed dumbass. Vlad says it's simple. The rest of his generals are loyal to him only because the war gives them the chance to feed. Whereas Hector and Isaac are human, yet the fact that they choose to stay loyal to him, rather than the rest of humanity, proves that Vlad can trust them. The Count then turns and leaves as abruptly as he entered. Hector and Isaac follow. When Godbrand protests that Dracula should want to meet with his own kind instead of a couple of humans, Hector rejoins that they are meeting with him because Dracula needs someone to talk to and make plans with. When he needs someone killed, fucked, or made into a boat, doubtless he'll call for Godbrand. Yeah, Hector's got some snark to him, and let's talk a little bit about Hector. And this guy, I'm so happy that this dude's in the show, because for those of you that don't know, I was not introduced to Castlevania through the original show, through the original games. I didn't discover them until much later in life. I discovered this series firstly from a game in my mom's original Xbox collection that I have played several times but I've never quite beaten, and that is Castlevania Curse of Darkness for the original Xbox. I've played this game so many times, I've become very, attached to Hector, let's say. And while he's not my favorite character in the series, you'll see who that is later, I'm still super happy that he is included in the show. And seriously, play Curse of Darkness if you haven't already. it is a fantastic game that is more than worth your time. So, yeah, I'm super glad Hector is in this show, and even cooler, I know I said I wouldn't talk about the voice acting until I was done with the entire show, but I have to point this out. Hector is voiced by Theo James. Many of you know him as the guy from Divergent, and many of you also know him more recently as the voice of Bastion from X-Men 97. Yeah, they got a pretty damn good voice actor to do this role, and he is great as Hector. Like, just absolutely great as his character. Is he better than he is as Bastion? That's to be debated, but he is still very good as Hector, and I'm very, very glad he's in this show. Okay, now we'll continue on with the plot. I'm sorry for going off script, I just love Hector. He's one of my most underrated favorite characters in the entire series. The Forge Masters approach Dracula in his study, where he is back staring into the fire. Although they reaffirm their loyalty, Hector and Isaac privately admit that they are as surprised by Dracula's choice as the others, and would like to know his reasons. Dracula's explanation for this is equally simple, albeit different from what he told Godbrand. To the other vampires, humans are nothing more than livestock, and it is as impossible for most vampires to hate humans as for humans to hate cattle. But the Forge Masters know full well what kind of cruelty and deception humans are capable of, and so only they are capable of the hatred that Dracula needs to inform his army's decisions. Like, say what you want about Dracula, he is an evil bastard, but he's cunning and smart. Staring into the flames, Hector recalls the words of his own parents who abused him mercilessly and mocked him for his failure to understand how the real world works. His recollection takes him to their last words, which became screams as he locked them inside their home and burned it to the ground. Yeah, Hector murdered his own parents. Breaking out of his reverie, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, reverie, he and Isaac assure their lord that they will make humanity suffer dearly. In a melancholy voice, Dracula says he doesn't care anymore about suffering as long as they all die. Now we fast forward to Gresit. The sun rises on the aftermath of the city's battle with Dracula's night hordes, tending to their wounded, burying their dead, rebuilding the walls, and weeping over the lost loved ones. The bodies of the slain demons are chopped into pieces and thrown into the city sewer. At the gate, Sypha waves a sad goodbye to her grandfather and the rest of the speakers, who are leaving Gresit to carry on their duties in other towns. She admits to Trevor that she's not worried for their safety as much as she feels abandoned, as she's never traveled alone before. After an awkward silence, Sypha irritably tells Trevor that he's failed to offer the routine assurances that she's not alone. Trevor admits he hasn't had much experience with companionship of any kind, and asks whether they can focus on making sure their current task doesn't get them killed, since in his opinion that is her best chance of seeing her friends again. Sypha angrily repeats her earlier assessment of Trevor, that he's rude. Again, Trevor is an asshole, but he's such a funny, somehow likable asshole. In the speaker's partially collapsed hut, Alucard is sitting on the floor, idly drawing portraits of his father and his mother into the dirt floor with a stick. Sadly, he speaks to his father's image, reflecting that Lisa never liked the Wallachian's name for him, an anagram of his father's name, wanting both her husband and her son to be their own persons. Yet here he is, choosing to embrace his name as the opposite of you, and kill his father for the sake of his mother's memory. A single tear falls onto his mother's portrait before Trevor and Sypha arrive to collect him. And the two of them bicker back and forth. So, yeah, Alucard is a great character in this show already. Like, not only is he definitely accurate to his in-game counterpart, but he is very, sympathetic. That's the word I'm looking for. He's very sympathetic. You understand what he's going through, and you feel bad he has to go through with it, but you know that he has no other choice. And then we go back to Dracula's castle. Yeah, we only get one scene with Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard, pretty much just setting up what they're about to go do. Go to the Belmont archives. So, yeah, they're kind of just barely in the episode at all, and I'd argue that the star of this episode is Hector. Case in point, Hector's working in his forge and cuddling Caesar, a reanimated puppy that is one of his several pets. Godbrand enters and makes a grudging apology for his outburst in the war hall. accepting that they are on the same side, and their shared loyalty with Dracula demands that they work together. Hector graciously accepts, but Godbrand says the generals and his own officers still have doubts. So far, their war on humanity has been less of a military campaign than just lashing out in the bloodiest manner possible. Godbrand feels that any war, even a genocidal one, should be conducted with a bit more order and a bit less chaos. He has a fair point. While he has no love for humanity, Hector admits that the bloodshed has been just a little more wanton than he would have liked. They are interrupted by a vampire wheeling in a cart full of corpses, carrying the last of the human victims from Gresit. One of them is the bishop's, his head half bitten off by Blue Fangs. We finally get to see what the bishop's actual fate was after it was off screen previously. It is gnarly, it is satisfying, and it is definitely a welcome sight. So I'm glad we finally got to see how that bastard met his end. Hector polishes his enchanted hammer and begins the process of reanimating them, but pauses as the castle tremors. In the control room, Dracula activates the mechanism that teleports the castle from the ruins of Targovishta to a secluded valley. And that's how the episode ends. Yeah, that was a mouthful to say the very least, and it's probably the most exposition-heavy episode of the entire show so far. It does a decent job setting up what they're about to do in this season, while also closing the chapter on everything that happened last season. And like I said, Hector is the star of the show here. He gets the most lines, he gets the most dialogue, and he gets the most time on screen out of the entire episode. Yes, even more than Dracula, Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard. So, yeah, that's pretty much how that goes. And the ending of the episode has him beginning his devil forgery, something that I'm glad they kept intact from his in-game counterpart. However, I'm not sure if he's still going to make fairies or not, because I believe those are also an element from Curse of Darkness, a power that he has. So, yeah, it's an exposition-heavy episode. It is very slow, but it's by no means bad. It's still interesting, and it's by no means boring either. It's kind of just slow, and if you can deal with that, then you're in for a decent watch. That does a good job setting up what they're about to do. Alright, let me find my written review so we can finally wrap this review up, because this might be my longest review of this entire marathon so far. Where are we? We are here. This is definitely the slowest episode of the series so far, with pretty much nothing but exposition dumping. But it sets things up well, and it's not by any means boring, as it's still excellent writing all throughout. But undoubtedly, the star of this show, for me, in this episode, is Hector. As someone who was first introduced to Castlevania through Curse of Darkness on the original Xbox, I'm so thrilled that he's included in this show, and is still a Devil Forge master, just like he was in that game. It's a decent watch, but it is very slow, and there isn't any action at all. So, yeah, it's a decent episode. It's a very long-winded episode, but I wouldn't be surprised if many people consider this one of the weakest of the show. I can understand it. But to me, it's still a very good episode. It's just very, very slow. And if you can get around that, you'll enjoy it. Otherwise, it might bore you. So, because of that, final verdict for War Council, the first episode of Season 2 of Castlevania, is going to be a 6 out of 10. It's a decent episode. It's a good episode. It's a solid watch, and it sets everything up well. But it is very slow, there is no action, and it's pretty much nothing but exposition. AKA that one thing I absolutely bitched about in Attack on Titan with the whole court scene. But you get around the slow pacing, you're in for a decent watch. And it probably will be better as soon as the season goes along and you see what unfolds. So, yep, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this almost every single day. And I'll see you guys next time when we dive into the next episode of Season 2 of Castlevania, starting with Old Homes.